After the disappearance of Ark Nova, the enemy has launched shuttle after shuttle of troops to supplement its weakened military forces in space. The ground troops of the Federated States Army, fast becoming the strongest force on Earth, put all of their effort into blocking. There is no more intro dialogue for this mission. Die! Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Cybernator. In the last part, we went through mission 3 and 4, showing off the failure states in the process, and now it's time for mission 5, which is the other mission I mentioned last part that you can technically lose but still progress onwards. And this is a complicated one because we get our last normal weapon here, barring the napalm gun if you went for that back in stage 1. Now, the big thing that's hard about this stage is it's a relatively short and straightforward stage. There's an active mini-boss along the way we have to fight, which is kind of annoying. But otherwise, as long as you just hold the R button for a lot of it, you can get past a lot of enemies and their attacks pretty easily. But I want to get as many power chips as I can to get every weapon as max level as soon as I can. And we get the final weapon coming up here at the end of this little ground segment, and upgrading that to max takes a lot of power chips. That said, it is easily, if you're playing without the napalm gun, the most powerful weapon in the game for random enemies. It's not just the level 3 punch. So if you level the punch and this next weapon up to max, and maybe the missiles, you're going to be doing just fine. I'll talk more about that, though, in a moment when I grab it, because this is a larger ground section than I remember it being. Alright, here we are. And this is the laser. You fire a small laser forward, it does surprisingly high damage for what it is, and it recharges decently fast. The more power chips you get, its damage ratio increases, and the beam itself actively gets wider. In fact, I'm going to quote the manual here, because I was looking around for it in between parts and I actually found it. They describe what each of the weapons does as you power them up. For instance, the punch, if you think a prize fighter has a devastating right hook, wait until you get a load of the Cybernator's chromium fists. The Cybernator's punches pack an incredible amount of power, but the reach is limited. Power chips will increase the bludgeoning potential of each punch while lengthening the Cybernator's jabs. I actually forgot range was an increase on those, for instance. Whereas the Herculean homing missiles, this weapon system is the Cybernator's premier enemy eradicator. With the push of your fire button, you'll launch uranium-tipped missiles that simply can't miss their designated targets. Power chips will increase your missile stockpile. They'll also enhance the destructive force and homing accuracy of each missile. This, though, is the LL7 Laser Warfare Laser Beam. Concentrated beams of plutonium form the Cybernator's laser cannon. Can disintegrate enemy fortifications. Oh, from the Cybernator's laser cannon. Okay, now that grammar makes sense. Can disintegrate enemy fortifications in the blink of an eye. After each laser surge, the cannon must be re-energized. This takes time, so be prepared to defend yourself while reloading. Also, as power chips are collected, the laser beam becomes wider and more intense. And yeah, as you can see, that's more than triple the width. The level 2 laser is ridiculously powerful in its own right, but if you can get enough power chips to get it up to level 3, I'll be real, between this, anything you've given the missile, and the Vulcan, you'll be good for the rest of the game. Because after the Ark Nova mission, I feel the punch generally falls out of use, just because its damage ratio isn't as useful from that point in the game onwards. Alright, there's also the Vulcan Automatic Annihilation Cannon, or your standard Vulcan, the Cybernator's most basic weapon. The Vulcan Cannon is a rapid-fire blaster that automatically reloads after a clip is empty. Power chips will change the caliber of the Vulcan's shells from 70mm to 90mm to 110mm. Cool. And then there's a little descriptor for the power chips themselves. There's actually nothing for the napalm gun, which is a little bit weird. Now, the manual itself doesn't have a storyline for Cybernator, but it does have a description for the mech itself. For instance, the Cybernator first appeared around 2013 AD. Oh god. Initially introduced as a means of eradicating space pirates from the lunar shipping routes, the Cybernator soon became an integral part of the Marine Corps mechanized forces, replacing the Firestorm XG-9 solar tank. Becoming an elite Cybernator warrior requires 1,000 hours of training in mock Cybernator combat. 90% of all Marines who attempt to take their seat in the Cybernator cockpit either drop out because of the mental and physical fatigue, or are accidentally destroyed by their own incompetence. Trying a bit hard to be Zeta Gundam there, I see. Either way, it's time for the mini-boss of this particular stage. This thing is big, and if it makes touch contact with you, will do a lot of damage. I've had one run of this boss where it basically stood still and just fired its missiles at me, which you can easily just guard with the guard attack by pressing R. But otherwise, you're going to want to bait it into jumping up and down onto one of the platforms above or below you, and then just fire your missile into it from there. The manual also has specific parts where they'll describe specific parts of the Cybernator, like referring to the fist as a knuckleizer, where if you use it, more than teeth will fly. As well as apparently inaccurate heights and weights to the Japanese version, saying this in the American manual that's like 5 stories tall and 5 tons. When it is 5 tons in Japan, but it's like 4 stories high, because that's more realistic for something that tall or something like that. I'm not sure those exacts. That's not the kind of manual fluff I like to read. I prefer to read, here's weapon bios, here's boss bios, here's mission bios, which there are mission bios, and I'll go more into that next mission. With that said, we are coming up on the more interesting parts of this mission, in that this is the part you can mess up. Just through this passageway, and you're there. Is the shuttle this way? Yes, hurry! We're gonna find that escape/resupply shuttle, I forget what they already called it last part, that Apollo and Mitch went out to go and attack at the end of Mission 4. Oh no, I'm too late! Attaching rocket pod. After attachment, pursue the enemy. Got it. Hurry it up, then. So what we're gonna have here is a situation very similar to destroying the engines on the Ark Nova in Mission 3, where you have, I think, between 2 and 3 minutes to completely destroy this shuttle in an 8-directional control segment. There are, I think, like 8 to 10 portions of the ship you have to destroy. Like 2 or 3 on the bottom left and right, respectively, 2 in the bottom middle, and then like 4 or 5 near the cockpit. If you have the level 2 or 3 laser, just hold it to the top right or left, depending on what side of the shuttle you're on, and hold L and then just let loose, and you'll win eventually. You need to actively focus on the shuttle itself, though, because it will escape eventually. The assault suits that the enemy are sending out at you here can be surprisingly potent in taking out your health, though. So make sure you're being a bit evasive to their attacks as well. But also stay close to them if you can, because they will drop health and power chips if you need them. And that's the shuttle down. With the level 2 and 3 laser, it goes down pretty quickly, but if you're not careful, you can easily lose that. The plan was a success. Everyone report back to Versus. Korea? What? We've got to end this war. For Apollo. You're right, Jake. With that, though, let's show off the failure state for this mission. I already forget if I mentioned I'd show this at the end of this part or right now, but we're showing it now. You just gotta wait about 2 to 3 minutes, and it does slowly show your altitude in the top left below your score, and it will eventually just get too high, and it will escape you. Failing this, or Mission 3, or maybe both, guarantee you the bad ending. I do believe you need to beat both Mission 3 and 5 with the mission accomplished ending in order to get the good ending. With that said, I will be showing both endings off in this LP, so if you want to see one or the other and you only get one or the other if you're playing along, don't worry too much, you'll at least see the other one. The shuttle will soon leave the atmosphere. Sorry. Jake. While the enemy's military was weak, the Federated States Army put into action its final strategy to take control of the enemy capital. Operation Soldier Soul. While battle divisions closed in on the enemy capital from all directions, Versus headed for the enemy anti-aircraft military base located halfway up the Alps. This is probably my least favorite mission in the game, barring maybe Mission 3 for reasons. You mean we can't move out? That's right. If we don't reach the rendezvous point in 6 hours, we won't be able to join in the Soldier Soul plan. To get there, we have to get over this mountain. Mitch and I will go first and destroy the anti-aircraft guns. There should be reconnaissance planes hanging around near the army base. Let's make sure they don't find us. Roger. Let's go, Mitch. Let's go. This mission starts off a bit weird in that we're in an auto dash segment where there's anti-reconnaissance, the reconnaissance planes throwing grenades out at you that are surprisingly hard to dodge when the active enemy is jumping. The laser's pretty good for damage here, but I'd honestly recommend using the missiles here as well, as I feel they're better used here than anywhere else in this mission. This is easily the most varied mission in the game in terms of what it wants you to do, but I'll be real, it just feels clunky. With that said, this I would say is probably your last good bet to get any good power chips, as this is also the second to last mission. There's only 7 stages in Cybernator. They vary in difficulty, of course, as you may have noticed, but they're relatively short at the same time. I think, like, the speed run of this game is only... looks at a tab I had open but forgot to load up. There are no enemies in sight. That's strange. Interesting little thing here. I've mentioned before, if you pause the game, there is a map feature. There's no map in here, but we also have a mini-boss. This thing will just dig in and out of various parts of the rock around here. Just grab the power chip over here, and then I recommend standing towards the mid-left of the room and waiting for it to do this attack pattern where it just tries to ram into you. If you hold L and then just walk backwards, you'll probably destroy it before it has a chance to do anything to you. Yeah, speedrun for this game is currently 16 minutes, 48 seconds world record. US version, Japanese version, 6 minutes, 5 seconds. I'm assuming that's mostly just due to dialogue length differences. Though there is a no napalm category, which is about 20 minutes long both ways. Now, as for the mission bio, as I mentioned a few moments ago, every single stage in the game has a bio in the manual. For instance, the Axis Lunar Mining Colony, moon ore processing plant that is actually a front for the enemy's monolithic intergalactic battlecruiser. Your objective, locate and destroy the battlecruiser's power unit. Cool. Also, there's 2 different pathways here in this dark segment. They both get you more or less the same amount of rewards into the same place, though, so even though I'm showing both, I'm not going to be really talking about them because they're pretty plain. One does have more landmines than the other, so you're going to need to aim more towards the ground than anything else, but it's nothing too important. The Asteroid Defense Forces and Orbital Hideout was Stage 2. Similar to the air cover used to defend a current-day carrier fleet, these Axis antagonists will try to prevent you from reaching the strategically important Ark Nova. Your objective, shut down the ore processing plants. The Ark Nova itself was an Axis space force designed to launch offensive probes into Earth's atmosphere. Also the headquarters for the enemy's top military mind, Generalissimo Francisco Flaco. Your objective, sabotage the huge mobile weapon hidden deep within the base. Stage 4 was the Stratospheric Showdown, the largest battleground in the history of warfare. This dog-eat-dog fight will make Waterloo and the Normandy invasion look about as big as the invasion of Grenada. Or was it Grenada? One of the two. Your objective, penetrate and annihilate Axis forces spread from the terra firma to the edge of the ozone. What the hell? Then the last stage was the Madagascar shuttle port. This was an Allied space shuttle base before it was turned over to the Axis leaders in a trade for one of the Earth's last remaining fossil fuel mines. Originally, the deal called for the base to be revamped into a peaceful international space vacation resort. Instead, the enemy transformed it into a maximum security military installation. Your objective, make the enemy pay for the renege by turning the space shuttle into a scrap pile. Now, there is one thing I should note as well. I forget if it's already happened or not. No, because we're on the B path for the mission right now. When these paths unite, there is notably a drilling mech that will come up from behind you. If you get too close to this thing, it'll do a lot of damage very quickly. It might even be instant kill if you're below a certain point of your health. Just jump up here, though, and you get a real flashing explosion, clearly. And then this mission is the Axis Prime Minister's mountain hideout. Every leader must have his eagle's nest. This one, hidden deep within an alpine cave known only to a handful of highly paid Sherpas, is where Prime Minister Klaus von Meister-Baron, it's a long name, confers with his generals. Your objective, destroy the Prime Minister's anti-aircraft weapons facility. In the manual and the game, you can really see they had 2 very different storylines going on for the localization. I think the game is closer to what happens in the Japanese dialogue, but don't quote me on that, to be frank. level 3 weapons in this game are going to be the thing I recommend you focus on getting more than anything, especially if you prefer one weapon over another. Personally speaking, I think the level 3 Vulcan and Laser are worth putting all of your efforts into grabbing once you have the level 3 Punch for Arc Nova, just because their damage output combined with mobility is much preferred to the other weapons. There it is. That's one. Versus, we found the anti-aircraft guns. Uh-oh. It's going outside. Versus is in danger. Mitch, let's get out of here. We never see Mitch outside of, like, the person launching out of the last in Mission 4, so I'm assuming that the game wants to say there's 2 pilots in each mech when there's not. Alright, so we have another time segment here. We have to destroy all the anti-aircraft guns as well as the boss fight that eventually spawns here. I'm not sure what the time limit is here, but unlike Missions 3 and 5, a failure state here is just a non-standard death. I don't think it's a non-standard game over like the failure state for Mission 1, though. The boss here is really annoying because it moves super quickly and its only attack is to try to actively run into you. And if you're not careful, that can do a lot of your health really quickly due to that little electric charge it has. Yeah, there was about half of the health I had left right then alone. You can also rain some electricity down from the sky, but if you're fast enough by using the missiles, or my personal favorite, the level 3 laser, or level 2 laser, you can take out enough that it doesn't really matter. I want to say I have about a minute left, if even, to succeed the mission here, so the time here is pretty tight. My recommendation overall is to see if you can balance hitting the boss fight as well as the anti-aircraft guns simultaneously. I believe the fire on the salt suit's hangar is the last dialogue before the Versus itself gets destroyed. I will still be showing the game over thing here just from my napalm gun playthrough, which I, in general, like to look at as the bad ending playthrough. I don't think there's any more. Yeah, there are no more readings at all. Well, we survived for the time being. Guess you're right. All right. Let's join up with the others. So let's show off that failure state. I'm just going to fast forward this again because it's nothing too... It's nothing we haven't really seen before, really. I do recommend if you're trying to at least see all these things in this game, still focus on destroying the boss here and then just let the anti-aircraft guns go away. Though I think what's actively happening here is that the Versus does have a health bar because I feel the timer ticks down slower the fewer guns there are left, which could actively be what's happening, to be frank with you. Main engine hit! I'm going to explode! Ah! Korea! And yes, that is, like I mentioned, just a non-standard death game over. It was only a game over here because I didn't have any credits left. Or maybe that is just a straight-up game over too. I honestly can't remember. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 4, we're heading off to Endgame. See you guys then.